Ladies, gentlemen, and others, welcome back to Boz Comics. I don't imagine this video is going to be terribly long. I don't have a whole lot to say about the matter at hand, but recent events have given me an opportunity to speak about a more general concept that exists outside of just Superman. That I've been kind of wanting to really delve into for a bit now, so I'm going to jump on it. Also, I'm going to take the opportunity to stoke the algorithm, strike the iron while it's hot. Let's talk about bisexual Superman. Before I go on, though, I would like to be a proper YouTuber and ask everybody, if you like what you hear here, kill me. Please like, comment, subscribe. It's a big help. The channel has been growing lately after a very long absence, and I'd like to keep it going. So yeah, bisexual Superman. I will admit, for reasons I will get to, I have not read any of the articles about this. I don't know anything about the context. I don't know the narrative reason. Like somebody needs a reason to come out. But like, you know, I don't know the narrative context of Jon Kent's coming out. But my point is that it doesn't matter. So yeah, Jon Kent, Clark Kent's kid, he's been around for a while. He was introduced as a young kid. He was really a popular character a few years ago in the thick of the Rebirth era. There was a really good book. Well, he was a big part of the Superman Rebirth storyline. A lot of people liked Clark Kent being a dad. I never read those books, but I heard they were really good. I think my wife actually got me the first few trades of Superman Rebirth, and I still haven't gotten around to reading them, but I will someday, probably. But Jon Kent was really good in that. He had a spin-off series alongside Damian Wayne Robin called Super Sons. Now, again, I don't read a lot of DC. I read like Batman, and that's pretty much it. But I heard that Super Sons was really good. Again, it's on the list. But Jon Kent's been around for a while. I guess at some point, I think as a byproduct of Bendis's Man of Steel run or something, where Bendis basically like ruined a lot of things that people liked about DC Rebirth Superman. Jon Kent went out into space or some shit, and then when he came back, I think he was like aged up, and now I think he's like the current Superman. I don't know. I have not been following the story. Again, it's a story I hear is actually pretty good and is liked by a lot of people, but I haven't been following it, so I don't know. Doesn't matter. But that's who Jon Kent is. There's a lot of people very angry about nothing on the internet who don't even seem to understand that we're talking about Superman's son. But you know, people are the point of this video. Anytime a character comes out, what I see a lot of are cries from people that unfortunately I used to hang around with, saying things like, look at this company and their agenda. Look at this company. This one always gets me. This is fine. I don't have a problem with LGBTQ plus IAXYZ alphabet soup. To clarify, I'm not mocking the acronym. I'm mocking people who mock the acronym. You know, I don't have a problem with those people, but look at them shoving it down our throats. Geez. You know the dialogue tree. I know you do. If you've been a member of any geekish fandom for any real length of time, you've heard this shit. You know? And this has always been around, but I think especially in the last several years, especially in the wake of Comicsgate and such, you've heard this shit. I know you've heard this shit. This comes up every fucking time. Okay, I'm going to try to be really charitable and not just dump on people. Okay, so when I was really involved in Comicsgate, my thing was always, um, not everybody who's in Comicsgate is some hateful, bigoted person, which I still believe. Not everyone involved in Comicsgate is some like fucking hateful person. A lot of us just think that the quality of the current books are bad. We think that there is a prioritization of political agenda. I would never use that phrase now, but this, bear with me, like political agenda over good story. We think that a lot of these characters that we know and love are being denigrated to push social change. And we don't like it. We don't like the insinuation that there's something wrong with these characters that we love. And we also don't like pros on the interwebs being a bunch of dicks because people say like, wow, I don't like female Thor or whatever. And there's a lot there that still kind of resonates with me, although I think a lot of it is very flawed in its thinking, or I think the thinking is still very flawed, and I think the execution leaves a lot to be desired. I think a lot of people who don't mean to come off as assholes come off as assholes, and I also think those kind of social circles do provide sort of a refuge for some pretty hateful people. But that's the kind of stuff that would often come up when I was considered myself Comicsgate before I went super hardcore left leaning. I used to be a lot more moderate and always a liberal, but I was a lot more moderate. And then over the last couple of years in the Trump era, I just went like full blown socialist. So those are my political leanings. So I mean, keep that in mind as I'm spinning this stuff. But yeah. Oh God. This was relevant. I was making a point. Right. So those are the kind of things I would always hear in these communities. And I would always say, like, you know, not all these people are assholes, even if they might come across that way. And I do still believe that. But the problem is that I think people that are mad about these things are operating on a very flawed assumption. See, first, let me tackle the idea of like they're shoving this down our throats. Okay, what does not shoving it down your throat look like? Are they just not allowed to exist? Because like, when Young Justice, the cartoon, when the new season came out on DC Universe, before DC Universe got kind of axed and then folded into, all the shows got folded into HBO Max, the new season of Young Justice came out, and Young Justice had been off the air for several years. So it came back and it tried to be more topical. And so, like, for example, Aqualad came out as bisexual in that show. He shared a kiss with somebody, I think. I could be wrong. I think there was an on-screen kiss between Aqualad and another dude, and people lost their shit. There were no plot lines about Aquaman's sexuality. There were no. There was the only drama. The only way it really got addressed was oh God, was it Tila was his love interest in the show? I haven't watched it in a while, but I think like Tila was his love interest at one point, and she's like, "Hey, I'm surprised that you're with what's his face," and he's like, "Yeah, well, you know, I'm learning things about myself." And it's like, okay, so it would have just been the equivalent of him going with like another girl, right? Except in this case, it was a dude, and there was a kiss, and it wasn't super sexualized. Not that it should matter, but you know what I mean. It's a cartoon, ostensibly aimed at general audiences. I will not say aimed at kids. I have a whole aimed at general audiences, but it's a kiss, and people lost their fucking minds. I remember arguing with a bunch of bigots, actual bigots, on Facebook, and saying like, what's wrong with it? And the standard shit. Kids shouldn't be exposed to that kind of stuff. You know, okay, brain dead takes. Got it. So when people say, oh, it shouldn't be shoved down our throats, in my experience, there's no amount of moderation that will make those people happy when they're talking about not shoving it down your throat. What they're really saying is, I don't want anything that's not heteronormative at all. I don't think they realize that. I do think a lot of people are just having a very reactionary, they're very reactionary, right? It's just a gut thing. And they're like, oh, I don't like it. I don't understand it. It's change. It's weird. There's still a lot of that in the world. And I think a lot of people who are otherwise well-intentioned and don't understand themselves and aren't very self-aware, it just feels wrong to them. They don't get it. It freaks them out. So they get mad, plus the whole puritanical ideas about, sex and sexuality, and people think that children shouldn't be exposed to it in any way, shape, or form. That's a whole other can of worms, and I don't know how germane it is to my fucking comics channel, but maybe someday, because comics can and should and do have sexual themes in them. But people get really protective, and because the problem is a lot of less educated people still think of non-heteronormative stuff as deviancy, and I think that's a large component of it too. So they're sitting there and they see like a gay kiss on screen and they're like, oh shit, what is this? This is horrible. Why would you show this to children? Because they don't really understand what it means to be gay or not straight. But that's what the whole shoving it down our throats thing. Now, when we talk about this idea that, well, they're just doing it for woke points. That's the other thing I've seen so far online. They're just doing this for woke points. They're just doing this for brownie points. What's the phrase? It's oft fucking repeated. I can't think of it, but like the whole right-wing area of media criticism always uses this all the time. But basically, like it's not coming from an honest place. They're just doing it for brownie points. They just want to show how woke they are. And here's the thing. I think in a lot of cases, they're probably right to an extent. I think the individual creators who write for these characters, when we have somebody exploring a new sexuality, the actual creators, the ones who are writing and drawing the work, they're probably coming from a more honest place. When we're talking about editorial, and certainly anybody above editorial, I have news for you. Anytime you are talking about a character who is under the stewardship of one of these larger comic book companies, everything having to do with how that character is presented is done for corporate reasons. They're not thinking in terms of nothing done in so much as they care. And there's lots we can say about how much these companies care about these characters and these storylines outside of their validity as marketing machines for multimedia franchises. But, outside of that, everything they do about these characters is about making money and or stirring up conversation. The higher ups are not remotely concerned with telling a good story. That's not me being like my super political socialist self. I genuinely believe that that's just how business works. Why would they? Why would they care? That's the whole thing. They're not artists. They're purveyors of a product. So this whole idea of like getting outraged that like, oh, this character is gay and or bisexual or whatever now, and it's this huge outrage. Dude, you can bitch all they want. They don't care. When you're complaining, you're literally you're stoking the flames. You're doing what they were hoping for. Just like the people who get excited about this change in this new representation are too. You're all serving the same master, as it were, and that master is publicity. It doesn't matter. All your bitching, all your caterwauling, it doesn't matter. They don't care. You can complain about storytelling. They don't care. You can complain about supposed character inconsistency. They don't care. I will say I was mildly taken aback when Tim Drake came out as bisexual. That to me, and I don't have a lot to base this on because again, I haven't read the stories. From the little bit I'd read, I thought it felt a little weird that this character who had been regularly shown to be straight had tons of relationships with women exclusively for years and years and years. Tim Drake has been around since the 80s. It felt a little weird to me and a little disingenuous that Tim Drake was now bisexual. But it is possible. That's the thing. And also, I acknowledge I haven't read the books. Two, I was purely going off of what I had read, story summaries and online discourse. So when Tim Drake a while back came out as bisexual, I did have a little bit of like I'd like to think reasonable, kind of like, really? That's a little weird. But I mean, what am I going to do about it? Of course, they're going to, there you go. They're going to take this character and they're going to explore new things with him. And it is possible that people discover new things about themselves. That makes perfect fucking sense. Like, even in your 20s, you could still discover. I don't want to like get into my like sexual preferences on this channel, but like I'm 32. I still consider myself straight, but if sexuality is a spectrum, I only discovered I'm a little less straight than I otherwise thought within the last few years. And that's all I'll say on that matter. Just like, you know, people will tell you gender is a spectrum, sexuality is a spectrum too. People are always discovering new things about themselves. I don't really see it as a problem. Now with the Jon Kent thing, again, this video is more talking about the phenomenon itself. I can't speak to how well the Jon Kent coming out thing is handled because I don't know anything about it. I haven't read anything about it. But I at first blush, I imagine it actually makes a little bit more sense than the Tim Drake thing. Because I think, isn't Jon Kent, like, even though Bendis fucking aged him up, because Bendis is a bit of a hack, and I can't believe I ever used to really love his work. Isn't Jon Kent a little bit younger than Tim Drake at this point? Like, Tim Drake is in his 20s now, right? I think. I could be way off base, but I feel like he should be. Time in comics is weird. We know this. At least in American comics. Yeah. But anyway, Jon Kent's like in high school. Oh no, a high schooler is discovering new things about their identity and their sexuality? Whoever fucking heard of such a thing? So much scandal. Very much aghast. Oh no. I guess my thing is like, I don't really understand the problem. What is lost in having these characters explore new things about your sexuality? Now, if you're saying like, I'm not interested in, I as a cis straight dude am not interested or as interested in reading about or you know what I mean, non-straight, non-heteronormative relationships. Okay. I don't connect as readily with non-heterosexual relationships, I'll admit, because I'm a pretty straight dude myself. So, you know, some of those stories are harder for me to get into. Sure. That doesn't mean they're bad. It just means they might not be for me. And I certainly don't need to make an angry fucking video on the internet about it. I just don't understand. I think what it comes down to, again, is people having issues with change. Change is scary. But this idea that like corporations are just like, you think it's some kind of win to say, look at the corporation, just virtue. Say that was the phrase. Fuck. I couldn't think of the fucking phrase. Virtue signaling. This idea that corporations are just virtue signal. They're just virtue signaling. Well, of course they are. Holy fuck. Even if now they really wouldn't do this. Okay, let me rephrase. Companies are virtue signaling left-wing talking points these days. Because like it or not, they're popular. Most of the country, if we're talking about I can only speak to the United States. These are American companies. I live in America, so I'm going to speak kind of generally about American politics. Like it or not, progressive, left-leaning politics are what's popular in this country. So a company is going to push out things that appeal to the common demographic. Conservatives are not the common demographic. They don't make up the majority of the comic buying public, as I understand. Everything I've seen suggests that that's just not the case. People are liberal. Now, I wish they were like me. I wish they were like far left, like socialist types, but whatever. I'll take liberals over fucking conservatives all day. I don't think all conservatives are bad people. I think American conservatism is bad, but if you're right wing, you're welcome on this channel as long as you don't act like an asshole. Okay? Like, and I will try not to come at you like you're the scum of the earth, because I don't think that. But I do think some of you guys are crying over nothing. And I've been there. Okay, I used to be balls deep in Comicsgate, which is not something I'm proud of, but over the last few years, I'd like to think I've grown a lot, and hopefully you can too. If right-wing talking points were what was popular, like Jon Kent would be coming out and like, I don't know, you'd have a storyline where if conservatism was what was popular, if conservatism was what would make the company money, then Jon Kent would be coming out talking about falsified elections and the importance of school kids saying the Pledge of Allegiance and hanging gay kids up on flagpoles is good, actually, I guess, or something. I don't know. I'm not a conservative. Jon Kent would be like trying to inspire people to like go out and like if they're poor, just get a job. I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm having trouble taking this seriously, and it does embarrass me that I used to be so deep in this stuff. But yeah, saying like, oh no, this is just virtue signaling. That's not a win. Of course it is. If it was more popular to be right wing, they'd be doing the exact same thing. It's a purely cynical, monetarily incentivized sort of thing. They don't have some fucking like proud agenda. Okay, DC is not out to turn comic readers gay. All right, DC is out to make a lot of money, and you may think that you know what will make them money. And it is quite possibly true that these larger corporations are very out of touch with what would actually make them money. But what I can say to you confidently is everything they're doing is profit motivated, whether they get it right or not. They're just trying to make money. They're not trying to affect grand social change through comic books. They should, but that's not what they're doing. Okay, these are corporations run by greedy assholes who just want to make more fucking fuel for toys and movies and video games. They barely care about the comic books themselves, outside of them being a platform for larger, more important, envision my finger quotes, things. So just think about that the next time you want to go on Reddit and talk about how comics are dying because everyone is gay. Anyway, I hope I didn't ruffle too many feathers and lose a bunch of subscribers I gained over the last week or so. Much love to you guys. Please remember, if you like this video, hit the like button. The likes are huge, and leave a comment down below. What do you think is important what do you think is a good way to explore new facets of a character's sexuality in comics? What are some examples of good coming out stories that you've seen in comics, whether in indie stories or in mainstream with like the big two or what have you? Do you disagree? Do you think there's a real agenda? I know I'm being a little mocking. I am sorry. That is a product of my position on the political spectrum. Of course, I'm going to be more charitable to my own opinions. I don't take it too seriously, okay? I'm not trying to like call you names. Please, you are welcome here. Just indulge me a bit. I do want to hear your opinions, and I promise I will try not to be a total dick to you, and I'll try to, in the comments, everybody, please keep it respectful. Don't think of it as like pandering to people. Just think of it as like keeping my channel intact and not dropping a whole bunch of stuff that's going to get my channel nuked down below. Think of it like that, okay? You're not taking care of bigotry. You're taking care of me. You're protecting Boz. So, but let's talk about it. How gay is too gay? Like, what is acceptable to you? What does a good coming out story look like? What does good representation look like? Do you think that character sexuality should never change? All those things and more, you can discuss them down below. Comments feed the algorithm, which in turn feeds me. Speaking of feeding me, another way you can support this channel, besides sharing the video, liking, subscribing, hitting the bell, you can also buy me a coffee down below with a one-time $3 donation, and it helps keep the lights on a little bit longer. All right, guys, I've been rambling on long enough. I said this video wasn't going to be that long, and then I talked for 25 fucking minutes. Take care of yourselves. I'll see you in the next day or two. New issue of Spider-Man comes out on Wednesday, actually, so I'll probably make a video then talking about it. Until then, guys, take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.